Happy Sunday. This is Simon with AvaTrade, and I want to welcome everyone back to our webinar and special welcoming to our new visitors. And I hope that this will be practical for you and beneficial. So the idea of the webinar is pretty much reflected in the title, Your Weekly Trading Plan, and that's what we're trying to do. Simply create a plan, create a structure, and this way hopefully have better results. And all of you know that, and not necessarily just in trading, in anything else, planning can bring better results, and that's what we're trying to do. And as I always say, as the traders like to say, you plan your trade and then you trade your plan, and this removes any impulsive actions that we all are guilty of. Okay, a few things about myself. This is me, Simon Friedman. I'm a senior account manager with AvaTrade. My overall experience is over 22 years. This June actually will be 23 years since I decided to go into trading. I was licensed back in New York. I worked in few proprietary trading firms as a day trader, and I did it for about 11 years. And after that, I moved into a less stressful environment. I started to trade in a different way, and also started to mentor and educate other traders. And currently, I'm very excited and happy to assist our customers at AvaTrade. Now, the structure, the agenda of the webinar is pretty much the same every week. We talk about indices, stocks, commodities, and Forex. Before that, we try to see what the big picture is on market and globally, and that's what we're going to do today as well. Risk warning, you can find the full document at avatrade.com, and everything we do here is purely educational. We do not suggest any trades, of course. Now, these are the channels that I highly recommend for you to, excuse me, to subscribe to. You have Telegram, you have Twitter, you have YouTube channel, which is my favorite. Has a lot of material is being updated on a daily basis. You can subscribe and click on that bell, and you will be notified when new things are coming up. Also about the webinars, if you missed the webinar or any live event, most of it is being recorded and posted on YouTube, so you can always go and watch it at your convenient time. Okay, so before we go into the economic calendar, very important before I forget, that this Monday will be unusual trading. The U.S. markets are going to open as usual, 9:30 a.m. New York time, but I think all European markets are closed for May 1st holiday, and it's going to be slow trading probably, and it's going to be beginning of a very, very important week, and this week will be busy for interest rate decisions, something that we've been waiting for. We're going to get into that in a moment. And let's take a look at economic calendar. Now, again, a reminder of importance of economic calendar. As I always like to say, it's not the numbers that are important, but just the fact, of course, that something happens. And with this market environment and with everything that the Fed's been doing lately, sometimes it is confusing, and that's why even if we knew exactly ahead of time what the numbers would be, it's hard to predict what market will be doing. But knowing about these facts, it's important so the trader doesn't get caught in the trades and will be prepared for surprises, and especially something that we have this week, big numbers as NFPs and interest rate decisions and so on. Okay, so here I just take out, as I always explain, I just take out the high impact events. You can filter through them, you can see what's relevant to your trading, and let's move on. So Sunday, we have the manufacturing PMI numbers from China. We have Monday, PMI from US. Tuesday, interest rate decision from Australia, very important, of course, for the Australian dollar. We have CPI numbers from European Union. We have employment data from New Zealand, And Wednesday is the Fed's day. They're starting the meeting on Tuesday, I believe, and Wednesday will be the announcement and the statement and the press conference. As usually, the announcement will be important, the statement as well, and 30 minutes later is going to be press conference. Well, as I like to say, Mr. Powell or Chair Powell will be really drilled with tough questions in regards to economy, recession, and other things. And that's what the markets are really jumpy for each question and each move and each answers that he has to give. So that's on Wednesday. Thursday, we have a similar thing from ECB. We have the statement and the rate decision from ECB and press conference following. We have Governor of Bank of Canada speaking later that day. And Friday, we have NFP numbers and also employment numbers from Canada and monetary policy from Australia, retail sales from European Union. So this is as far as economic calendar. Again, you can see what's relevant for you. Prepare yourself. Some people like to trade into the numbers. Some people like to stay away. It all depends on your style and risk. Okay, so before anything, I just wanted to show the VIX. This is the, some call it a fear indicator. Some call it, this is pretty much showing the level of volatility. And usually the VIX show the opposite direction of the equity markets, as we know. And here, take a look. I mentioned to you last week that the VIX were around $17. This past week, we actually had a nice move up. I think that was on Wednesday. This is the weekly chart, just to show you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the 6th week to the downside. So, as we mentioned, around $18. There's a tendency that the VIX are starting to recover and the market starts to sell. It was for a moment here. We almost hit 20, but we ended up closing the week lower. So as equity markets ran up, we're going to be talking about it. So we'll be watching VIX, of course, as an indication of what's happening in volatility and what could be or when could be the possible reversal in the market. And that's important, and that's what a lot of traders, a lot of analysts are watching and being really sensitive to these numbers. Another big thing with the banks, the issue continues. As you remember, the issue with other banks includes the Silicon Valley Bank and so on. We have First Republic Bank. They reported terrible numbers. They had a lot of money withdrawn from the accounts of the customers. And this is the thing, you can just take the numbers. So on Friday, the shares went after the market to $1.86, and they closed before to $3.51. And only on Monday, beginning of the week, the stock was at $14.27. So the thing is, I did some research, and it looks like the bank has or the Feds announced that maybe until Sunday afternoon, a few banks actually bidding for it. So that could be a possibility of one of the major banks, so that includes possible JP Morgan or PNC, and we might hear some news of possibly those banks buying the assets of this bank. We'll see. It's going to be very interesting to watch how the week starts and what we hear about the banks. So this is something I just wanted to share with you. And now we're going to move into the trading terminal. And a few things. We start, of course, with indices. We had a very strong week for indices, and we'll start with U.S. indices. Now, as you know, we are in the earnings seasons, and the companies continue to report, and we had very strong reports from the tech companies. And that includes Microsoft, Alphabet, Google. Alphabet, which is Google, or Google, which is Alphabet, and also Facebook or Meta also reported strong reports. So we start from indices, and if you can take a look, Nasdaq was the strongest. This is the daily chart. Thursday and Friday were the nice move to the upside, and we closed above the previous resistance that we mentioned last week, the level of 13,057, and we closed on Friday at 13,334 and 3/4. Take a look on the weekly chart. It looks very interesting. We might be breaking through it. Again, it's going to be depending a lot of what's next. And definitely the first thing is the Fed decision. Speaking of which, I just want to show you this again. This is the CME group. And that's what the prediction is. So I'm going to start first with the current. So there's a 83.9% probability of next week's increase by 25 basis points. So that's 83.9. It was fluctuating, actually, if you could see here. Back in March, end of March, there was 40%. Then on 21st of April, it went, the highest was 89.14. And then the 2 days in a row, towards the end of the week, we are at 83%, 83.9%. So that's a big factor of what's going to be happening next week to the equity markets. So this is Nasdaq. Again, daily chart. We had a nice run Thursday and Friday. We closed above it. Now we need confirmation in case the Nasdaq plans are moving higher. We need to see some build up and switching from resistance to support, which means we'll have some price action above the line. S&P 500 as well. We did break through this resistance line. We closed at 41.90.5. Similar idea. This is the first closing above the line in a long time. So we'll be seeing if that being confirmed and if we're switching from resistance to support around that level. Dow Jones, same thing, hitting that resistance. So all three indices hitting the resistance. Nasdaq closed above it. So let's also take a look at European indices, as they will be closed on Monday, as I mentioned. So DAX is moving higher, challenging the all-time highs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 consecutive weeks to the upside. And the same thing, resistance, as you could see here. UK FTSE, not as strong. Had a little bit of a sell-off in the beginning of the week, and then Friday was very interesting, went down and continued higher. French index, similar idea. Also, all of them pretty much on the way to retest the all-time highs. Now, let's take a look at China really quick. China had a nice recovery towards the end of the week. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday we moved higher. We broke to the 200 moving average, and we broke on Friday higher above 50 moving average. And of course, as you probably remember, I always mention two assets with China. That would be copper and oil. Let's quickly take a look at it. So copper reacted to it after bouncing off 200 moving average, and crude oil as well had a nice move on the China index moving higher, and other indices as well. We're going to analyze more copper and oil when we get to commodities. So that's as far as indices. So we established that that the indices are actually closed on the highs and challenging the resistance, and hopefully, or they are hoping for it to switch into a support and continue to the upside. And a lot of it will be clear to us in the upcoming week with the NFPs, with the interest rate decision of the Fed and other aspects. And a few things that that are important. We do feel, according to reports of Amazon and UPS, that there's a weakness in consumer spending. And even though the big stocks, we're going to be looking at them at the moment, Microsoft, Google, Facebook, they are reporting nicely, nice earnings, and they're moving higher. But Amazon actually didn't do so well. And first it moved higher, but then reacted and moved to the downside after the comments of the company when they say, and I quote, uncertain economic environment and ongoing inflationary pressure continues to be a factor, and we believe it's continuing to drive cautious spending across consumers. So that's what Amazon is saying. So let's take a look at stocks. We start with the ones that reported. We had Google, as we mentioned. We move to daily chart. Google had nice earnings. The stock is up. Facebook had a very good earnings. The stock gapped up and actually holding to those levels. Microsoft is the other one. Actually had a nice move. There was a gap up and continuation in the last 2 days of the week. Very strong here. So Amazon, if you can take a look at Amazon, the first reaction was very positive. The stock gapped and continued higher, but on Friday sold after these comments from the company that the consumer spending is slowing, and that's also something to pay attention to, as also it matches what the UPS had to say also, as they call it the shoppers pulling back. Of course, you could see it's very sensitive for UPS because they are one of the shipping companies that are shipping all the goods that are being ordered by the customers. So these are the things. Again, the tech companies are strong. That's what brought Nasdaq high this week. Now, this coming week we have few companies reporting. You can find very simple by just typing earning reports, and a few stocks that I want to bring up to you. It's the major ones. The Apple. Apple is reporting on the 4th after the market. So Apple has been very strong. It had corrections, few corrections, but it is on the way up. It closed on Friday 169.53. It could be that it's going to try to challenge the recent resistance. That would be around $174, $175. It is on the way there. And of course, the traders are really waiting for that. It could be kind of in line with other tech companies for good earnings. It could be the opposite. So we'll be seeing that on the 4th of May. Uber is also reporting. The stock is flat. If you can see on the weekly chart, it's been really flat here. And it reports before the market on the 2nd, which is Tuesday, I believe. So it is really sitting here. I guess the earnings will be moving the stock up or down, and that's important to see. Okay, so that's as far as stocks. One more stock that we can take a look at, and that's Disney. As you know, the 100 was a key level for Disney, and we broke through it on Friday. We closed at 102, almost 102.5, and trying to move higher here. So let's see if this move is holding, and we'll see what continuation here. We currently just broke through the 200 moving average as well. And the earnings of Disney is not coming this week. I think it's another 2 or 2.5 weeks that it comes. I'm not sure exact the date. We'll be talking about in the week whenever it's relevant. So we'll be watching Disney on possible continuation or correction. Okay, so let's move to commodities. And we started with commodities. Speaking of crude oil and copper, let's take a look at them closely here. So as you could see here, copper, after confirming this level around 384, it bounced from it. It also bounced off 200 moving average. Thursday and Friday were green days. Again, we'll be watching China index on a possible continuation or reversal, and global indices or global equities we'll be watching as well. If copper decides to move higher, it probably will try to retest this 394 level. And if not, it will be having a little bit of a hard time breaking this current support as well. It's together with the 200 moving average. So we'll be watching that. Crude oil. Crude oil was below all moving averages. It went down and closed the gap. If you remember, we mentioned this actually, that there was the gap because of the OPEC Plus cutting production. And then we saw last week it was a sell-off. And I mentioned that we might be closing the gap, as this is a common thing in trading. Sometimes the instrument, after gapping up, they're coming to close the gap before deciding what to do next. And that's exactly what happened this past week. We did close the gap on Wednesday, and then Thursday we had the green day, and Friday we had the nice recovery and closed above. So from here, we might be continuing to the upside. Again, it depends on a lot of factors, and that includes the Fed's decision, which will be affecting the equities, and that in turn will be affecting the possible thoughts of the analysts of the demand on oil, together with the possible scenario with recession and so on. And of course, Chinese index will be closely watched in regards to oil. So that's as far as crude oil. Now, gold. If you take a look at gold, or before we go to gold, let's take a look at natural gas. If you're already talking about energy, where's the natural gas? Here we go. Okay, natural gas. A long story here. A lot of actions here in a very tight range. If you can take a look, the sell-off, a big sell-off started the end of the mid of December of last year. We've been selling. There was for a while we had this for a couple of weeks tight range. Then we broke below. Then we tried to run. We hit 302. Then we came to retest the channel. We went below it, and then we established a new channel between $2 and 233. And so, and Friday we actually had an attempt. I'm going to bring a 4-hour chart, or a 1-hour chart actually. Take a look. This was the 1-hour action where we actually hit 255, and then we sold and stopped somewhere in the middle of that range at around 240. So it will be interesting to watch. We're sitting really glued to the 50 moving average here. And let's see if natural gas has energy to try to run, or if it will be stuck again around this range. And again, why I mentioned it, it's a very long trading range for a long period of time. If you take this first reaction to the upside here, February 3rd, we almost in May. So 3 months, a really tight range here. So let's see when something will happen. And usually when you see the tight range, it actually ahead of some strong moves. It could be moved to the upside when we break this first attempt of 2 months ago and continue higher, or could be the opposite. We can go and retest the lows, but at this point, it's hard to say. It depends on a lot of factors. So we'll be watching natural gas the upcoming week. Now, gold. Gold has been also glued to this around 2000. There were up and downs, and we're pretty much sitting on this level where this candle on 17th of March closed. There was a big range candle, big move here, and we're actually glued to that level We try to move higher, we came right back. We're not closing below it. We're really trading at this 1988 level. So again, we'll be seeing what this week brings. Again, gold reacting to inflation. It's reacting to equity as equity markets, as it's back to being safe haven, it seems to be, and of course to US dollar. So we'll be watching definitely the decision of the Feds and their answers statement and the answers at press conference will be definitely affecting gold as it will affect the US dollar. Platinum had a nice move, we mentioned it, and we came right below this level that we broke through. So we're back into the channel, and this week was strong week for the platinum. Let's see, we might be retesting this 1114 level, and at that point it will be crucial. Will we break above it and continue retest the previous highs, or we reject this level and then it might be sliding lower from that point? Also, last week we spoke about sugar and cocoa. Let's take a look at them really quick. Sugar is really holding these levels. Thursday, it closed higher. Friday, it tried to move, but it was a red day. Let's see if this move stopped or we are continue higher. We're kind of above the previous resistances, and we are below the next resistance around $30 or so. So we might see continuation. In general, this month is very strong. It's one of the largest candles in a while. So let's see how we continue here. Daily chart again. We could see first the Thursday's high as a possible immediate resistance, and the level here is 2740. Let's see how we react to that when we hit there, or we might just slide to the support. So interesting to watch this upcoming week. As just to remind you, all this move in sugar is based on higher demand and supply is being cut by certain issues. In Brazil and India is also cutting exports. We spoke about it last week. Now, cocoa. It's been really fighting this 2934 level. You can take a look at the weekly chart, the monthly chart. We established that this was the resistance back in 2018, April, exactly 5 years ago. And it looks like we're having a hard time breaking through it. And we also will be watching what's next. We went higher. It was a nice attempt to move higher, but we failed. We came right back in. And now we're really playing with this level. So we'll be watching the cocoa in the upcoming weeks. Now, let's take a quick look at softies and the grains. Wheat, it's been a sell-off in wheat. On the weekly chart, we could be, again, speculations. We could be getting to the next level of resistance. There's a possibility. Overall, it looks weak over here. Corn is it looks like a disaster. This was the switch of contract. The new contract opened much lower and actually continued. So that's a super weak sign, because sometimes when the new contract is lower, immediately it tries to close the gap. Again, speaking of gaps, to get closer to the price of the old contract. In this case, it actually continued lower, but it could be that we reached the support, and this was the level from which we made a new high back in 2021. And that's what the line I draw around 582.5. Take a look. On Thursday, we closed below it, but Friday, after having a false continuation to the downside, we actually went back above that line. So this 582.5 level, it's important. If we start building support around this level, we might be bouncing to the upside. And soybeans as well, there was a gap and continuation to the downside, and Friday was a little bit of a bounce. And similar situation here, just supports a little bit closer. The last support we had March 24th, and that was 1404 and a quarter. So it looks like we're holding that. So that's it with commodities. Let's move to Forex. We start with dollar index. Dollar index, with all the moves, of course, like you could see, somebody's waiting for something, and it's obvious. Everybody's waiting for the interest rate decisions. And this week we have 3 of them, right? Australia, US, and Euro. So we are really drilling that 101 level. So far, we're holding about 101. Now, as far as the weakest and the strongest for the past week, we had Japanese yen after reporting certain numbers. The yen got super weak towards the Friday. And let's take a look really what happened there. Take a look. US dollar just moved higher, and this was the range. The low 133.33, the high 136.55, 220 something pips. Okay, now, but take a look at this. It looks like pound was the strongest closing the week. And what I want to bring to you is actually the pound yen, which had a huge range. I'll try to find it if I could. Okay, I found the euro. Euro had a huge move as well against the yen. Take a look, and we did break above the resistance here, 148.35, and that's the weekly chart and the monthly chart as well. It looks like there's open space. Again, looking at the huge range, we might be actually seeing the reversal, but if it chooses to continue, it actually could go for a while. So let's just take a look at all the currencies against the yen as they reacted. Australian dollar, Swiss franc, huge move to the upside. New Zealand dollar, huge move to the upside, hitting the 200 moving average here. Canadian as well. Canadian JPY is actually very interesting here, and I want us to pay attention upcoming week. Why? Take a look. We sold from here, and then we rejected that level again around 100.50. We did close that level with a huge range. This is the daily chart. So again, will this pair continue higher, or will we see the reversal? So all the pairs with Japanese yen, it's a big question for the upcoming week. Let's see what happens. Now, again, there was a huge, not the huge, but increase in the inflation in Japan. And right after the same day, they reported the interest rate, and they again didn't change the interest rate. And it looks like that was disappointing. Just my speculation. I didn't read any news about it. But if you see increased inflation or high inflation, and the Bank of Japan, as you know, is the only central bank, I believe, that hasn't changed interest rate, hasn't increased it. And there was a big hope that that might finally happen, and it didn't. So I guess that was the disappointment, and the Japanese yen sold against all the currencies. I'm still trying to find the pound yen. Let's see if I succeed. Let's take a look. Okay, so it's a huge range as well. So just don't want to take a lot of time. For some reason I don't see it on my charts here. So that's as far as the Japanese yen. Now, a British pound, it's been strong. Again, we finally broke through this. First, we were trading about the 124.35, which is a long time resistance. And there were the 3 consecutive days, and we closed at the highs. And on the weekly chart as well. So we might continue and might challenge this 126.50 level, around that level. That's strength of the British pound. Euro pound, if you take a look at the daily chart, we just hit the 200 moving average here. Also weak against the pound. So it looks like pound is being the strongest. Another strong currency this week was New Zealand dollar. It was strong against US dollar after really challenging this 200 moving average. We did close 2 days in a row to the upside. And as we mentioned, the Swiss franc has been super strong, and it looks like finally it has some reversals here as we had the double bottom on USD Swiss. Take a look. We came down here on the 13th of February, on April. We tried to move higher. We came back again, retested this level. So reversal could happen, of course, fundamentally, if we see Feds on their course of continue increasing. And technically speaking, we need to break this previous resistance at around, let's say, 0.90 and start establishing support in order for it to continue higher. Otherwise, it looks like we are channeling here for a while in a very tight channel in a way. So that's as far as Swiss franc. So again, just to wrap up the Forex world, a dollar is really trading around 101, the dollar index, and this week Fed's decision would definitely inject some certainty into it, or the opposite. Pound has been very strong, the strongest for the week, and yen has been the weakest for the week since the reports and the lack of actions on behalf of Bank of Japan. And let's close it with Bitcoin. And if you can take a look, after challenging the 30,000, we came right back to around 26, 27. And this past week, we tried to move higher. I think this was the high range on the 26. We hit 29,986. So it looks like it's trying to retest again the 30,000 to the upside. Let's see what happens. Big week, like I said, coming up. And again, just to wrap it up, we have things that are coming out this week, and that includes a Fed's decision on interest rate. European Central Bank is also having a decision on interest rate. So is Bank of Australia. We have NFP numbers at the end of the week, and Monday European markets are closed due to the May 1st holiday. And the issue with the bank, I guess we're going to get more clarity very soon on the First Republic Bank. We might hear something. I guess just my thoughts from the experience. If we hear that it's being bought by a bank or group of banks, it could be reassuring in a way. And if it's not, it looks like it might inject some chaos into financial world. And just reminds me scenario of Lehman's Brothers, that some banks were doing okay, and Lehman's Brothers, they just slaughtered it and just disappeared in 2008. So let's see what happens. It's going to be definitely an interesting week, and therefore I wish for all of you to get some energy, some rest over the weekend. And definitely I wish everyone a lot of positive actions and a lot of success in the upcoming week. All the best. Take care. We'll be back next week. Bye-bye.